All right, so I want to talk a little bit more about Heroku after we've gone through it a little bit out and you have a little bit more context. So I want to make sure you can kind of understand how things are going to work. So we use PyCharm and we use Heroku kind of together. Okay, so Heroku is where we will run our application, and PyCharm is where we build our application and send it out to Heroku. If you go into Heroku and you look at the it's called the deploy tab. So if you click on deploy, you'll see that there's several different options to deploy. If you click on Heroku Git, that's the default one, and you have the command line interface installed on your local computer, you should be able to do a Heroku login and go through the process to be logged in. At that point, you can just set your remote. Okay, so instead of Heroku Git clone, you can do Heroku Git remote and set it to Flask in class or whatever your remote is, and that will set the remote. Then you can initialize the Git, and you'll bring everything down or push everything up. Okay, that's one way to do it. That's with the command line interface. It's fairly good. Okay, and all your code will reside on Heroku. If there's an issue or if you want to see what's going on, once you push it out to Heroku, you can click on the activity tab, and then you can say view my build log or watch it build, and you'll actually see it go through and install all of the different libraries that you have inside the pip Flask or the pip freeze requirements. Okay. And that build log can tell you if there was an error or something else that was going on. If you get an error, you could also go up to more, view, and then there's a little more up here. You just do the drop down and view the logs, and there you can see some of the errors. Some of the errors won't show up so much here, but they'll show up better if you do if you just run your app locally. You can kind of see what the error is, and most of the time if you get an error and just throw it into ChatGPT, it will kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the resources. So if you click on the resources tab here inside, you'll notice that there is a small fee associated with your running your web app. Okay, they call it a dyno. Okay, this one is included in my Eco subscription. Eco subscription is $5 a month, a flat fee, and it will run all of your Ecos together. Okay, so if you have more than one, stuff like that. But if you don't have an Eco subscription, if you're just going to pay, it's like 1 cent an hour. Okay, so what you can do is you can just build all your stuff, push it up, turn it on, test it, and then turn it back off, and then submit it. And then as soon as it's been submitted, I can go in and I'll just turn it back on. I'll do a test. I'll just see that it's working, and then I will turn it back off for you. So maybe cost you maybe 10 cents. So that might be the best way to do it. There are some free versions of Python out there that run in this framework, but they are not anywhere near as good as what I like for Heroku. So it's worth it to use this little version. You could always just pay the $5 a month, set everything to Eco, and then you can have as many as you want running for just the $5 a month. Now, say for some reason you can't get the Heroku CLI to work. There is a version that you can do that will allow you to go from PyCharm into GitHub into Heroku. And what you'll do for that is you'll click on the little button that says GitHub, and you'll connect your GitHub account to Heroku. Okay. And once you do that, you will go in, there'll be a little search bar right here. You'll search for the GitHub you want to have associated with this Heroku project. Okay. And then if you come down here, you can enable automatic deploys. And what will happen is when you write your code in GitHub, you'll send it up to your GitHub, or write your code in PyCharm, you'll send it up to your GitHub repository. Okay. And then once it's in your GitHub repository, it will reach out and tell Heroku, hey, I have an update, and it will automatically feed into Heroku, and it will rebuild with that new code. Okay. So what you want to do in this case is you don't want to send up too much too fast to Heroku all the time, or to GitHub all the time. Okay. This is a very easy way to do it. I like this method because this method allows for your GitHub to also host all of your code, and I could actually see your code while it's on GitHub. So this is a good method. It just takes a little bit longer to test, And you don't want to send your code a lot, because every time you send your code to GitHub, it's going to auto deploy out to Heroku. And if you make one small change, you could be building and building and building with that Heroku. So that's just a small overview of Heroku and some of the ins and outs that I've learned that we probably need to think about before we keep moving.